A day can be difficult to negotiate in our hurry-up, fast-paced world. In darkness, it can seem impossible. But for those who live in darkness, there can be second sight. The Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind is a nonprofit, non-sectarian organization that has been servicing blind people with dogs since 1946, offering second sight free of charge through the guiding eyes of a dog bred especially for this program. Breeding that began right here at the Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind in Smithtown, Long Island, New York. And from the day these pups were bred to the day they leave with their new owners, they represent an investment of vast proportion in time, energy, and funding. The Guide Dog program is really international, with graduates from all over the United States, as well as many from foreign countries. The training program utilizes a combination of English and American techniques. Volunteers fulfill important roles, one of which is serving as puppy walkers.
Well, the puppy walkers are, that's a term that we use. It's an English term, actually. And it's a term we use for the foster families who take the puppies when they're about 7 or 8 weeks old, and they raise them until they're a year old, so that a dog that is raised in a normal social environment is really the best candidate for guide dog training. You couldn't possibly raise a dog in a kennel and hope that it would be a well-adjusted candidate for training.
Then we take over, after about a year, we take over and we start the training of the dog, and that takes about roughly 3 to 6 months training.
Trainers and instructors at the Guide Dog Foundation are professionals whose own training has taken about 3 years.
Well, first they come in and they start learning as if they were a blind person. They're observed at all times, and also they're given a written test. And then once they qualify with the written test, then they become a qualified trainer, and then they work towards their apprenticeship to become an instructor. They go through the exact same thing. They'll work with some of the blind people, they'll teach them, and they'll be observed while they're doing it. They'll work with a class of 5.
Once they qualify as instructors, the real work begins. First with the pups, starting out very slowly, very quietly.
It's about 10 or 15 minutes of training, teaching it the straight line. The straight line is an imaginary line down the center of the sidewalk, and avoiding any obstacles on the right side of the person, and then bringing the dog back to the center of the sidewalk again. Then once that has happened, then the dog is taught how to stop at curbs. Then eventually we put it into harness, and then things become a little bit more hectic for it. It begins to learn how to walk up steps and down steps. It begins to learn a little bit more about going around obstacles, learning to judge the right side. It always protects the right side of the blind person. It then starts advancing into busier and busier towns where there are more and more people.
Students of the Guide Dog Foundation spend 25 days in residence in a dormitory environment, living and working alongside 10 to 12 fellow students at the 7-acre facility.
Usually Monday and half of Tuesday is used for the trainers to get to know you and how you walk and how strong you are. And all of this is going towards the process of making sure the dog you get is the right dog for you. It's the matching process.
The days of a guide dog student are full.
Well, Reveille is about 6 o'clock or 6:30. At about 6:45, they feed their dogs and give them water. Once the dogs are taken care of, back inside, and breakfast is at 7:30. By 8:30, we're loading up into the vans and getting ready to go into town. And toward the end of the class, when they're really doing more advanced work, we go spend 1 day in Huntington working in the village and 2 days in Flushing. But normally we do 2 trips a day. So they spend the morning at work and they're back about 11:30. The dogs are now taken care of again, and then at 12 the students eat lunch. At 1 o'clock we're loading up again, back in that van. And we're out usually till about 4:30.
They live here for 3.5 weeks. They're here. It takes, we always tell them it takes about a year, 6 months to a year to become a good team, a good unit. Once they leave here, we do have an aftercare program. We do go out and visit the students, and we'll take special trips out. We'll go to some state and visit all the students in that particular state.
I think the thing that people seem to want to know the most is how does the dog know the color of the traffic light? And in reality, of course, the dog doesn't know anything about the traffic light. It's the person standing and listening for traffic, listening to the pattern, the flow of the traffic that determines when to ask the dog to go forward. And when you ask the dog to go forward, it is a request rather than a command, because the dog must always feel free to refuse in case there is danger.
I'm impressed with the facilities, and I'm impressed with the human aspect of this school. And then when I was on class, I was very impressed with the training and the quality of the dog that came out of here.
Before I had him, my wife used to have to take me to my office on campus every day and pick me up in the evening. Now that I have the dog, we walk both ways almost every day. I may get only as many rides in a semester as I used to get in a week. I used to have to wait till my wife could take time or make time to run an errand with me. Now I can run most of my own errands and some of hers too. I can hardly even remember what it was like not to have him. And I actually think if I had known what I know now about how much better he's made my life, I probably would have wanted him many years before.
Guide dogs are given free of charge to every student, but the cost for each person dog unit runs in excess of $10,000, expenses that include the costs of the building itself, various vehicles, dog trucks and student vans, maintenance people, kennel people, clerical people, veterinary bills, feed bills, utilities, and so much more. The work of the foundation is almost entirely supported by private donations. The Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind, Smithtown, Long Island, New York, can always use your help. Volunteers are needed as puppy walkers, office assistants, and in many other capacities. Your donations help us to provide second sight through Guiding Eyes.